I'm going to address a topic that I was running into a little earlier in the week. It's about rules and relationships. There's a phrase that goes, rules without relationship leads to rebellion. And I believe this can definitely be the case. Um, I have described what rebellion is to my clients, and it's the idea that when there's a lack of the ability to choose, our desire to choose actually trumps the wisdom of our choice. Meaning that if we look at two choices, at least that are offered, one being a beneficial one being a not so beneficial one, um, the rule or the society or the area or the relationship that the rule is being or the choice is being offered, if it has been given that there's really only one option, kind of like do what I say or do what I say, which one do you want? You end up with, even though that may be the best uh, choice, if the person who is being given the choice really feels like they don't really have a choice, then the desire to choose or the need to choose uh, overrules the wisdom of the choice. They would step back and think, oh, that one that they're being kind of suggested or told to do really is the best option. But the need to choose says, I can't do that. I have to choose this thing that's the most opposite. So I want to take a look briefly at that. What the idea of rules. Rules are good, right? They're kind of designed to provide some guidance. They give us a direction to go, understand what is expected, right? They provide some protection that we know what the boundaries are, what the guidelines, what's expected in whatever circumstance it is, rules in school, rules in society, rules in a variety of other areas of life, pretty much everywhere. But we focus in too much on just the rules when we really kind of emphasize you just need to do what is right and not really have a connection with the people that are governed by the rules. We will often really promote what is the exact opposite of what the rules are trying to establish and provide. Now, as a counselor, where I see this very often is in parenting. Right? Initially, when a child is small, their ability to choose and to understand the consequences of the choices isn't really that complex. They can only grab very sort of simplistic ideas around it. But as we get older, our brain develops and we can actually determine more. We understand the options, we understand more of the consequences of what we're picking, and along with that, the the desire to choose as we mature, as we embrace our independence, choice is critical. Right? I say it's shown somewhat in the idea of love. Right? Really, it's kind of the basis. Love requires choice. If I really want to love somebody, I have to be given the equal and opposite option to not love them. Otherwise, loving them really becomes meaningless, right? If I demand somebody to love me, I never know if they're really loving me because they want to or because they're kind of being sort of forced to. So, um, when it comes to parenting, as an example, often as the child is growing up, the parents, for whatever reason, make the rules there and they continue to be pretty strict or very structured, very confining to the child. And as the child grows, their, like I was describing before, the desire to choose grows. The desire to choose in larger impact ways grows. So um, when they're not given that, they're going to want to push back against those rules. So we see what we call rebellion, right? That's the other day. I was working with, this is often a lot of the case, right? As the child gets older, teenage years, young adults, will see the parents really pressuring them to get a job, to be independent, to be responsible, to take care of whatever. It's often financially based, right? And um, they're told what to do. If the child wants to be able to own their own responsibility. So sometimes you see the the child, and the child is the just the one, the offspring, the young adult pushing back and not doing what they would really want to do. If you step back and ask the as the person and say, well, would it be better to do what your parents are asking you to do or telling you to do, get a job and be independent and earn money? Yeah, but they to do that feels like death. It just feels like giving up and doing whatever somebody else wants, so they lose their voice. So they end up being resistant to being responsible, resistant to be getting a job, and it becomes this really major conflict in the relationship. Now, not only just in parenting, but it's in everywhere. You have jobs where um, the rules, right, are so the job descriptions are so confined. They're just really about what you do, and there's no connection with the person. They will you hear a lot of grumbling from employees. You hear a lot of not respecting the company or the bosses, because the bosses, the company aren't really caring about them as a person. They're only really focused on getting the people to do what they're supposed to do, period. That's it. And that doesn't promote the environment that the company would really like. It doesn't promote loyalty, feeling connected. It actually doesn't promote employees working really for the company. They're kind of aiming to just get a paycheck and get out, which is really kind of sad. But then, in order to often what is done to manage that pushback is to really clamp down more on the person or the people or the group, and all that really tends to do is have further disgruntledness, further frustration, further anger in the group or the person, and more of a refusal to do what is being asked of them. So, how do we address this? Let's look at the parenting factor as kind of where I come from with some of the what I deal with, but it's in all relationships, peers, as well as work that I was just describing. Um, it is a looking to understand the person, to validate them, to recognize the freedom they're looking for, their ability to choose their own creativity, their own perspectives. It's not a free for all necessarily, but for like the child, for instance, it is saying, well, just laying out, okay, you can choose this or you can choose this. They're equal. If you want to go get a job, well, this is what we will do in response. If you choose not to get a job, well, this is what we're going to do in response over here. And it's not a manipulative thing. It is just a fact of life, right? Like the rule of society, or often with this traffic, right, or speeding, or the rules of the road. I mean, they're set, and their idea, we still have the freedom to choose whether we want to obey the rule or not obey the rule. And it really shows up a lot of times in the speed we want to choose to drive, right? We can choose to stay under the speed limit or at the speed limit or just slightly over, and it could be totally acceptable, and but we're still choosing. Or we could choose to drive excessively fast, and we could think, well, I'm going to do that and I'm not going to get caught, or I'm not going to get stopped, or whatever reason we do it. And we have the option to do that, and we may or may not be subject to being caught doing that, but we will have to face whatever consequences come our way if we would happen to be called on not obeying that rule. And the same thing goes for parents and kids. If you choose not to get a job, and depending on where the age of the kid is and all that stuff, there are different responses, different consequences we can give. For example, and if you get a job, you will be able to put fuel in the car, right, to be able to use to go wherever. And if you don't get a job, that's fine. We just won't be funding the fueling of the vehicle, so you really won't be able to use it because you won't be able to put fuel in it. It's not mean, it's just want to prepare the child to be able to manage more and more responsibility as they get older. So, just to summarize, rules without relationship lead to rebellion, right? The rules alone are not wrong, they're not bad, they're not unnecessary, they're completely reasonable and appropriate. But we also have to add the relationship in there. So the communication between the people and the ones giving the rules, there's an understanding and the value of them as a person and their ability to choose. And then that reduces the rebellion. Right? It just gives people a feeling of being respected, being able to make their own choices, of being seen as not just a cog in the wheel, but actually as an individual and a whole person. So this opens up a lot more, but I wanted to lay the foundation of that and explore more as we move forward, looking at how does this apply in work? Can we change the culture of work with a difference of what we focus on, not just the rules, but also the relationships, right? It's often a thing in modern business to value the employees, to create loyalty, and not just get them to do their job. So there's that. We'll follow up with some more specifics and relationships and how to promote relationships with rules so that we get results, not rebellion. All right. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next time. Take care.